YouTube, what is up? It is time for Pickems. We have Toronto tomorrow, so we've got to do Pickems. Liquid are doing a contest for the top 8. It's sponsored by Coinbase, so shout out to Liquid and Coinbase for doing this. It does change my Pickems slightly, and the funny thing about this is you kind of have to go for upsets to get into the top 8, and the most likely upset, even though Liquid is providing it, is probably Liquid losing. So I think, especially without that, this is like a 50-50, I think. Billy probably a little bit more of an advantage. I think losing Nats is huge for Liquid. And you add on the time difference. I think Liquid have like 6 days prac, because obviously they had to do EWC qualifiers. And Billy have probably got at least 3 times that. So I have to go for Billy here. I think if Billy lose this, I think this is a really bad look for Billy just on their own, and honestly just the Chinese region. So yeah, I have to back Billy on this one. I think, again, losing Nats is a big deal, and like realistically they should be favorites for this, but I think most people go for Liquid just because most people underestimate the Chinese teams, but they should be winning this. We'll see how it turns out. Again, to kind of be in this contest, you have to go for a couple of risks, so this is one of them. Another risk would be clicking Wolves, but I'm not crazy. So I'm just going to be going with Sentinels for this one. I've got to play it like relatively safe and just try and get a few of the upsets. So I'm going to be going with Sentinels for that one. I think Sentinels will be fine, to be honest. Wolves might get a map. But again, I still think the Wolves are the most likely to go 0-2 in this tournament. Maybe they can beat out Liquid, but I doubt it. I think the only way I see Liquid doing good is if Nats comes back, really. Again, I don't have anything against Penny. I think Penny's actually a great player. But just time, they're going to play puggy comps against teams that have so much time to prep. They just should be losing. Otherwise, I worry for like the coaching staff of the other teams if they lose to Liquid here, because what did you do with your time? And what is your read on the new meta? Yeah, Sentinels, again, I think they're going to be fine. Historically, they're very good at changing up comps, and yeah, they're just a strong team at the moment. And then brings us on to PaperX against Heretics. And this one's close as well. This is like, in my head, it's a 50-50, and then you start factoring things in, like the Teo going out. We've seen Heretics, they don't use it every map, but they've kind of struggled on the maps where they've tried to implement something else, like Icebox is something that springs to mind. So I think with the time aspect as well, I have to go with the train. I got to go with PaperX on this one. And saying that, if that is going to happen, I'm going to lock them in as my first like team as well. And Sentinels, I think we'll lock those two in. I feel like they're not saying the most likely, because I think PaperX could lose this game, but I just think that everything's going right for PaperX. They lose Fracture, which in my opinion was one of their worst maps. I think they thought it was actually quite good, but I think it was one of their worst maps in terms of their comp. And they gain Sunset, historically one of their best maps. Similar with Sentinels. These three actually had like some of the best Sunsets we'd seen. These three were probably the best 3 teams in the world at Sunset, so they are loving this. If this went third map and this was Sunset, this would be an absolute banger. It really would. So PaperX over Heretics, just purely time difference and the fact that I got a biasy train aside, I do think that PaperX should be slightly favored in this one, just purely because of the time aspect. Gen G against MIBR is really hard. I think this is probably the hardest one to call. Considering the contest here, I think I might go with Gen G, because I reckon most people would have MIBR. But I think if I look at it, MIBR, I know that they played EWC qualifier. I looked at the comps, they weren't using Teo, so they are prepping for Toronto. But I think Gen G, their style and how they like to play the meta before Teo came in, it suits everything that's going on at the moment. I think they're going to lean very heavy into Viper. I know that Munchkin likes Viper. I think the Viper double controller will be quite good, especially if teams start going more towards double Sentinel. And I think the double controller will work pretty well against that. So that's kind of my vibe at the moment. I think that I would favor Gen G just the smallest bit, even though they had a little bit less time. But I think maybe because the EWC qualifier like cancelled each other out. I think they had a week extra, and then they kind of lost a week because of that qualifier, even though they were trying the comps. I just think that the meta should suit Gen G a little bit more. And I think with saying that as well, I kind of convinced myself to lock in Gen G. as my third. And then we got to lock in the extra team for fourth. And I don't think it can be Billy. Well, it could be Billy, but I don't think I'm bold enough to go with it. I don't think it'd be Wolves. I don't think it can be Liquid. So it's Heretics MIBR. And then I have to kind of go for a risk to be in the top 8. And if I'm going with my time biasy of them not having enough time, I'm probably clicking MIBR. And Werner will be back on Sova. And it would be a giant upset for Heretics not to make it. And it would really separate this Pickem from other Pickems. If it did happen, because I think everyone, or like majority, maybe 90-80% would have Heretics going through here. And then we kind of got risk. And if they both paid off, then would be in a good position. Okay, I think I'm going to go with that. It's nothing against Heretics. It's mostly because the contest is here a little bit. I do think it's very hard out of these 5 teams to predict who goes through. If anyone else goes through to playoffs, I would be very surprised. Unless Nats came back, to be honest. Heretics get Sunset back. They've been looking good. But they play Paper X first, so they will go 0-1 down. So it is like maybe likely that would happen if what I'm saying is true. Yeah, I think I back this. I think it has enough risk that we back it a little bit. I imagine Weber and Neil will prove me wrong, but I'm also so fine with that as well. So let's. Do you have to lock them both in individually? Ah, dude, it can't. Sure. Let's do that again. Wait, we go for that. Nope, almost. Okay, so that's that locked in, and then. Okay, it's all locked in. Love that. And then just quickly, I had my top 15 up here. I just want to explain it because there's a lot of people that I should have had on, and maybe other people should be like higher considering their season that they had, and probably people should be lower considering their season that they had. Again, I think the meta is getting fully reset. So for me to back everything that happened in stage 1 and playoffs doesn't make much sense. I've gone more history based. There's a couple of people that I've kind of looked into and I think are maybe like hard carries, and they'll still be on the agent that they're hard carrying, like Yoru for Jemkin. But when I look at some of this, I think like you losing YOU in the breach setup for Raga means that Raga won't frag as heavy, in my opinion. I think Trent should be here, but I do think that I do think that he won't be actually on top with the Sova coming in. So that's kind of where I'm gonna side with it. So again, this more recency bias. More age bias or historic bias than recency bias. Okay, that's the end of the video. Let me know why you disagree with the top 15, but again, the meta changed, so that's why I've gone for it. Alright, peace. I'll see you all tomorrow.